Where do I start? I'm going to set the stage for you. What I hope to do is give you a brief overview of the course of my disease and the creation of my treatment approach, beginning with the physical world, the world of the body, moving on to the world of emotions, feelings, mind, alternative, and finally moving to the world of spirit, ruach and neshama, the Hebrew words we use. As I take this journey with you, I will note both the milestones and people along the way who played critical parts in my healing. And finally, I'm going to end with lessons learned. I'm going to accompany this personal journey with pictures, mostly of me, to both keep your interest and highlight some of my points. But before I begin, I'm going to start with a caveat. This is where things start getting a little complicated because I thought that this caveat was going to be part of the lessons learned. But it really belongs in the beginning. And the caveat is this. People are different. I know that you know that. You've heard it again and again. But for me, this was one of the major lessons that I learned having cancer. How different people are. They could have the same cancer. They could have the same treatment, and they're going to respond differently. People are different, and what we need to know as people who help people with cancer is that there's no one single answer. And for me, my challenge was trying to figure out what was right for me, getting a lot of advice, filtering it down, and looking to see what was right for me. I think our challenge as professionals is listening to the people that we are working with. And I hate to use the word patient. I struggle with that word patient. Am I a cancer patient? Am I a cancer survivor? I had cancer. I hope I don't have cancer anymore. I don't know. I don't like either of those words, and I'm not quite sure what the right words are yet. So that was my caveat. People are different. Okay, so what I'm sharing with you today is my story, my unique story, what helped me to heal. I hope that you will learn from this, but please do not assume that this is the way to go. There can be no one way. This was my way. It worked for me so far. And with that caveat in mind, we're going to buckle up and get ready for takeoff. And takeoff it really was, because my husband and I were all set to go on vacation as things happened. We were all set to go on a 1-month-long vacation overseas, all by ourselves. First time ever. And I decided that I'd go and do my routine mammogram about 2 weeks before that vacation. And the rest is history. The vacation never happened. I'm going to backtrack a little bit. You know my name. I'm 57 years old. I've been married for 37 years to the same guy. We have 7 children, 10 grandchildren, and usually I leave these details out of my professional bio because I want people to take me seriously, and I think that sometimes they won't take me seriously if they hear that. But this time I think it's really important because in terms of what helped me heal, I think the important piece was my family, the support I got from them, and from my friends, my colleagues, and the people around me. I'm a psychologist, and I've worked in the field of resilience building for a long time. In recent years, building programs to help communities face trauma, whether it be war, terrorism, natural, or personal disaster. So there I was, finishing up last-minute things, getting the mammography out of the way, and I got a positive result on a biopsy that I had done a week earlier on a lymph node that the doctor had felt upon examination. Without going into too many details, I was quickly thrown onto the fast track of cancer. And when I say cancer, I mean capital C, capital A, capital N, capital C, capital E, capital R. Actually, I mean breast cancer, because as I told some folks yesterday, every morning from the day I was diagnosed, I woke up before I even opened my eyes. What flashed before my eyes was this huge poster, if you can imagine, in red letters, breast cancer. That's what I woke up to every single morning for months and months and months. So from the moment I received that diagnosis, there wasn't a waking moment that I didn't think about cancer. The only respite I got from that fearful word was my 20 minutes a day that I spent with Bella Ruth and guided imagery. And I might note that Fania is here, and she does a lot of work with translating Bella Ruth's stuff into Hebrew. But more on that later. So now we go on to the first realm, the physical. Cancer is first and foremost a physical disease that, if left untreated, is life-threatening. So this means that for the first time in my life, I'm going to develop a very intimate relationship with my physicians, with hospitals, and with medical bureaucracy. It was all new to me, and I might add very overwhelming. And I should add that my husband is a physician, so the world of medicine is not foreign or strange to me. But being a patient and trying to figure out what to do, it was very confusing. After I did my first blood tests, my husband suggested to me that I get an accordion folder to organize all of what were soon to be my voluminous medical records. It didn't even occur to me, but he said, you know, you're going to have a lot of things to hold together, so get one of those folders. So I went, this was actually a super piece of advice. So I immediately went out to the stationery store nearby, and when I asked for a large accordion folder, the salesperson handed me a black one. I nearly passed out right there. Black, that color meant only one thing to me. I asked the salesperson with my heart in my hand, don't you have another color? And thankfully, she went to the back of the store and dusted off a blue one for me. So that blue one really carried me through all of my appointments till this day. A wonderful piece of advice for all of you who are working with cancer patients, a folder to organize your stuff. The second thing I did, and I think this was the morning after I was diagnosed, was to go online and order a download of Bella Ruth Napperstack's Guided Imagery for Healing Cancer. If there's one thing that you take away from this week, take that. For me, Bella Ruth was a lifesaver. For the 20 minutes a day that I listened to her calming voice, I was able to rest, let go, feel safe and loved, and leave cancer behind. Now, I had meditated in the past, and I should add, I spent a lot of time working with Jim over the last 8 years, so a lot of this was not new to me. Meditation wasn't new to me, and alternative kinds of therapies weren't new to me. But I had meditated in the past. Now I couldn't meditate. I could not clear my mind. I could not sit and breathe. I could do it with Bella Ruth. And that's what worked for me. The directions that she gave me filled my mind and allowed me a sense of deep relaxation and peace. Over the months, she accompanied me with many scripts. She has all different kinds of scripts for chemo, for radiation, for surgery, for fatigue, for boosting your immune system. I also tried other people as well, and it was good to have a variety, but I always came back to Bella Ruth. So I organized my medical reports in my new blue folder, learned how to deal with bureaucracy, and began to assemble my medical team. I definitely had a very big advantage having a spouse who is in the medical system. I have a wonderful family physician, but I'm also a pretty assertive person. So it was clear to me that I was going to choose my physicians, and I was going to interview them. I was going to see if they suited me. I was lucky that the first two that I chose suited me very well, and I was even more lucky in the fact that they worked together, which very often doesn't happen. I chose a breast surgeon and an oncologist that worked in a team, which is what happens in Shaare Zedek Hospital in Israel. And that was a very wonderful thing. They talked to each other. Even the radiologist who comes from an outside clinic participated in their conferences, and that made me feel like I really did have a team. These guys were knowledgeable, that went without saying, but more than that, they were mensch. They were available to me. They gave me their phone numbers. They gave me their emails. They were available for questions and for consultations that really I have felt was above and beyond the call of duty and extremely caring. And my sense is they do that for everybody, not just for doctors' wives. I am a doctor's wife, so I'm not 100% sure, but I really think that that's the way these guys are. So at various points along the way, I also reached out for second opinions, and it was important for me that my physicians would be comfortable with that they wouldn't feel threatened, that they wouldn't think that I was going behind their back. I wasn't playing any games here. I told them, I asked them, and they welcomed it. So I was diagnosed on June 16th. Now we get to the pictures. Oh, that's a picture of me and my husband with our 2 new grandchildren. They're not twins. They're children of twins, but they're not twins. And this is just about a month before I was diagnosed. You know, not thinking about cancer, that you can be sure. Let's see. After more than a month of diagnostic tests, we finally all agreed on what surgery I was to have, and I had that surgery on July 24th, using guided imagery and self-hypnosis both before and after. 3 weeks later, with biopsy results in, it was clear that I would need chemo, which was to begin within the week. It's sort of like my friend who had cancer also said to me, cancer is a game of hurry up and wait. You're rushing around to do all these tests, rushing, and then you have to wait and wait and wait. So that waiting for the pathology reports is long. After waiting, there was barely a moment to catch my breath. Without going into too much detail, chemo is always lousy, I can promise you that. I spent the next 4 months on a chemo regimen followed by surgery, another recuperation, and then a series of 33 radiation treatments, which I completed on Purim Day. For those of you in Israel, Israelis, Purim is the day of V'nahafochu, the day that things turn upside down. So I thought that that was an auspicious time to finish my treatment. My caretakers were supportive, kind, knowledgeable, caring, but very, very focused on conventional medicine and my physical state. So those are the bare bones of my standard physical treatment. But in addition, I added a lot of things along the way. I have a long list. Acupuncture, shiatsu, homeopathy, massage, lymphatic massage, daily walk. Oh, we got the next picture already. Yoga, guided imagery, self-hypnosis, and nutrition. Yes, cancer is a full-time job. Speaking about work, I worked, but I cut back very significantly to half-time, and very fortunately had very supportive coworkers and boss. So how did I get into all this? Much of the groundwork was already in place. I exercised, I had good nutrition, I did massage and yoga and meditation. I did all that before cancer. When I started chemo, I began acupuncture. 2 people recommended it to me. Jim Gordon, who I spoke to briefly sometime in July last year, and my oncologist. I'm happy to say that my very conventional oncologist recommended that I do acupuncture, and I started acupuncture. At that point, I was feeling pretty lousy. And a friend of mine recommended that I speak to Ofer Kaspi, who's here, who's a doctor of complementary medicine. And what Dr. Kaspi did for me is he helped me organize my thinking. I was a little confused. I was doing a lot of different things, but I was confused. And in his wisdom, he was able to help me just sort of set it out in a very regulated way. He encouraged me to do acupuncture the day before treatment and shiatsu the day after treatment. And the shiatsu I did through the Yuri Stern Center. I met up with those folks in Shaare Zedek Hospital, along with the spiritual care people in Shaare Zedek Hospital. And that goes to the notion of cost. You mentioned earlier cost. One of the big challenges of complementary medicine is that it's so damn expensive. And I had decided that I was getting some insurance money. I was going to use it all freely on complementary medicine as much as I needed. So that I paid for acupuncture, a lot of money every single week. And the Yuri Stern Center provides greatly subsidized massages of all types, and I chose to do shiatsu at the Yuri Stern Center, and that was really very helpful. There was something about the notion that that the people working there were volunteers and were giving of their hearts that made it such a healing place. There's a wonderful story that I'm sure I don't have time to tell you that Jack Kornfeld tells about a Tibetan monk who gets healed by all this loving care, and I wanted to share that story, but I can tell you that at the Yuri Stern Center, that loving care is what is so healing. I didn't know if this was helping me or not. That addresses kind of what Moshe says. How do you know? You're doing so many different things. What's helping you? But at the very least, it gave me the feeling that I was doing something. It's an empowering feeling. And I can tell you for sure that I always felt better after acupuncture. I would walk in there sometimes feeling absolutely horrible, and I would walk out feeling considerably better. I continue to exercise. For me, exercise has always been an important part of my life. I changed my exercise. I used to do, I don't even remember what I used to do, but from the day I took my blood tests, I met my new walking partner, and I started walking every single day. There was not one day that I missed walking. And our walking route is a 35 to 40-minute route. My walking partner, who is a new friend, would pace herself according to me. Some days we walked very slowly. Some days I hung on to her. I was really dizzy. She was always ready to say, "Oh, it's okay, we don't have to walk." And I'd say, "No, we got to walk," and that was great. I went to a homeopathic doctor once, and the treatment was very helpful. So I felt that setting up that schedule and deciding what to do on a regular basis was very good for me. I didn't have to decide each week what to do. I had a plan. And in retrospect, I was really able to maintain my good spirits throughout. I had reasonable levels of energy, and while I don't want to minimize the side effects, for the most part, they were bearable. In addition, I definitely felt that I was doing what I could to help myself heal. Now, for the most important part of my healing, there they are. That's my dream team. This is my immediate family. My kids, my children-in-law, my grandchildren, and my parents. And this was taken 5 days after surgery. We had a family weekend before my son went off to Africa. That was the only time we could have everybody together, and we did it. So there we are in our garden. Right from the start, I was very open with everybody. Children, parents, coworkers, man on the street. I held nothing back and told everybody. Sometimes I went a little too far. But particularly my kids, I told, they could ask me anything. And again, looking back in retrospect 1 year later, my kids have told me that that was perhaps the single most important feature of the year and this cancer, the fact that everything was above board. They could ask anything, I would answer, made everything not only more bearable, but it actually brought us a lot closer together as a family. And I think that this is something to consider. I know that there are lots of different cultures and lots of different people and lots of different ways of doing things. And I wouldn't, again, say that this is the way to do it. But I believe that there's something about being able to talk about cancer freely with the people around you that is extremely healing. We made many occasions over the course of the year. Beginning chemo was a cause for a party. At the barbecue that my kids organized the night before chemo, I decided to turn it into a haircut party, figuring that I would take the bull by the horns and shave my head proactively before letting chemo do its work on me. Here are some pictures commemorating the event. That's my son. He's my current barber as well. And that's my daughter, who decided to cut her hair along with me as a show of support and as a morale booster. And it really was. First of all, when you get your hair cut, you feel very weird. We walked down the streets together. It was great. And then afterwards, it was just a lot of fun. And then her hair grew. One of my sons wrote a prayer along the lines of Tfilat HaDerech, the Wayfarer's Prayer. He read the prayer out loud that evening, and we all cried freely. From that moment, every time that I had chemo, I said the prayer. I later went on to print it up, bringing it to hospitals, doctors' offices, nurses, and more. And it was really welcome everywhere I went. I had some grandsons and husband who did a haircut too, but that was less impressive. That was the same night. And that is a vacation. I'm going to talk somewhere about vacations. Oh, I was looking for the prayer. I thought the prayer was there. Okay. And then there is, after we made a party again when I finished chemo. We took vacations every chance we got. Friends all over the world were praying for me. At one point, I thought that God might actually have begun to wonder who this Naomi Chava Bat Chaya Hendel, because that's the way we pray for people, was. Because he was getting supplications from such far-flung places as London, California, Israel, New Zealand, Africa, and God knows where else. And then there's the spirit and spirituality, and we have begun already to talk about it, as I mentioned prayers. I not only prayed for myself, but prayed for my new cancer friends, because there's an expression in Hebrew that God answers those who pray for others. I wasn't taking chances. I decided to visit a Kabbalistic rabbi for a special prayer. I never went before to a Kabbalistic rabbi, but I went. Anytime I went to a brit, a ritual circumcision, I got a blessing from the sandak, the guy who holds the baby. He's supposed to have special powers the day of the brit. If I went to a wedding, I would ask the bride and groom for a special prayer. That's also customary. I was leaving no stone unturned. I had spent several years studying Talmud, but found that my brain was in shutdown mode even before chemo brain set in, so I decided to turn to Psalms and studied a chapter of Psalms every day. And it really brought me a feeling of great sustenance and support. And fortunately, it's long. It was like 150 chapters, so that lasted for a good 5 or 6 months. Okay, so now that we have covered mind, body, soul, let's see what other pictures I put here. There's me in chemo. My daughter told me that I should put this picture in because I'm making it sound too good. And I think I look pretty sick there. So that's me and my husband getting chemo. I mean, me getting the chemo. And that's one of my daughters and me in a scarf. My mother-in-law made hats for everybody. So bald under the hat. There I look really sick. But notice the pizza box there, right? You see the pizza box there? So those are my sons. That was the last chemo session I had. I was really out, completely out. They're having a party. And that's me the last day of my last treatment for radiation. It was Purim, remember? Purim, we dress up. I dressed up as a sartan, a cancer. I came to the department dressed up as a cancer, and the medical staff got a good laugh. The patients didn't think it was so funny. Here is the tefillah that I printed up. When I finished chemo, I printed this up, and it's hanging in Shaarei Tzedek in the Day Treatment Center, and I have cards with the prayer. If anybody's interested, I'm happy to share with you. And now that we have covered mind, body, and soul, what's left? What are the lessons learned? My 10 lessons for people with cancer. Number 1, breathe. Number 2, breathe with friends and family. Number 3, find doctors you can trust. 4, ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Number 5, learn to let go of things that you don't like, people who are not good for you, activities you don't enjoy, extra baggage. This is your time to do what you want. Yes, life is short. Now you know that you don't have forever. Number 6, people are different. We mentioned it at the beginning. It pays to mention again at the end. You know what's good for you. You can ask for advice, but do not feel obligated to take it. Listen to yourself. Sometimes it's hard to hear, but keep listening. Number 7, allow people into your life. Tell them what you need from them. Ask for help, even, and this I'm speaking to myself, if you are used to being the helper, and it's hard to ask for help. Roles are turned now. Maybe they'll turn back. Maybe they won't. Number 8, This is a biggie. Find occasions to celebrate, as many as possible. When I think back actually on this year, the chemo is fading. I don't like to remember the chemo. I remember the parties. Number 9, walk every day. Number 10, count your blessings. And there are many. That's it. A few more pictures, a couple more pictures. This is our post-chemo party, just in a restaurant, just again the immediate family. There, my husband and I, after I finished chemo, we celebrated. We went to Venice, we went to Rhodes, I went to Holland with my daughter, and there's my dream team again. These are the 7, the special 7. That's it. And that is this morning in Beersheba. There is sunrise in Beersheba.
Yeah.
Excuse me? For Naomi. A few minutes now. There'll be time later on as well. Any questions about helping people create programs of care or her program? Yeah.
Thank you, Naomi, for a really amazing presentation and for sharing your personal experiences. I was just sitting here wondering. My name is Ilana Kadmon, and I'm the first breast care nurse in Israel. Now, nursing has taken a big, big part of being the navigator. You just mentioned navigation of care at the beginning. We're navigators. We're telling the woman,
Absolutely.
Drive left, drive straight, stop, go there, go here. Look for integrative medicine. Look for the different types of integrative medicine. And I was just somehow amazed. The first thing I asked my colleagues, where was she treated?
Okay, so I want to say that Susan Ben-Dahan was an amazing integrative care nurse in Shaare Zedek. She took me by the hand those first few weeks. She was fabulous. Without her, I don't know where I would have been. So I couldn't underline more what you said in terms of my personal experiences. She was there for me.
Okay.
Absolutely. She prepared me for chemo, and she was really there. And I had her phone number, and I could call her, and I did.
So I just want to mention that we're now about 30 nurses around the country dedicated to breast cancer, women with breast cancer. We work closely together, we work closely between ourselves. We have regular meeting, and it is all a project and was funded by the Israel Cancer Association, and we have to thank them very much for the big support during all our journey. So I'm very happy that you did meet the nurse in Shaare Zedek, and I think that this is a message for everyone. Breast cancer is really, as awful it may be, is well treated and well taken care of. I think there are many other cancers that are a bit left behind, and many other people that don't have this navigation, this help, this support, and
I agree with you completely. And there are a lot of other diseases that aren't cancer, terrible chronic diseases that don't have the publicity. Breast cancer has a tremendous amount of publicity. I don't apologize for it, but I think that, I didn't mention everybody specifically, but the integrative care nurse was fabulous, fabulous, just outstanding. And served the function, I would say, is I was thinking, who was my cancer guide? So at various times I had different cancer guides, my husband, my family physician. But I think if I had one person to choose, it would have been Susan Ben-Dahan, who was the nurse at Shaare Zedek involved in breast cancer patients.
We have time for one more question, if there is, before we go to lunch. Anyone? Yes, please.
Well, the question is, what about psychotherapy? I think it's sort of like people come to me very often after they've experienced a trauma, and they say, do I need therapy? And I say, maybe, If you get a diagnosis of cancer, do you need psychotherapy? Maybe. It's certainly not something that I think everybody needs. I think it needs to be up there. It was offered for me when I was in Shaare Zedek. There's a psychologist who came around and offered his services. For me, this was not the time to do psychotherapy. I didn't turn to psychotherapy, but there are other people that I know. I have friends. I have good cancer friends who made a lot of use of psychotherapy. One of them in Hadassah, and found a lot of support and a lot of help. So I think that has to be one of the things available. I would say that everybody should do acupuncture, okay? And you should at least try massage. And psychotherapy should be available.
One thing I'd add is that what we call psychotherapy, that the approach that's there, the respect for the other and for the person discovering herself and finding her way and helping to recover what's not seen, that can be done by any, that idea can inform any of the people who are working with people with cancer, whether it's a nurse, an oncologist, a surgeon, that it's the some people will need somebody to formally go to every week or a couple times a month or whatever it is. But I think that the notion of helping people look at what may be difficult and giving them a place where they feel comfortable speaking about whatever's going on, that notion has to inform everything that all of us do all the time. So it's there, and I'm sure it was there in so many of the people that you work with.
Yeah.